In the glittering heart of Paris, 81-year-old Delorec Jordan steps into a luxury boutique, her travel-worn clothes a stark contrast to the polished elegance around her. Dismissed with a sneer, "This isn't your place." She's ushered out, the sting of rejection burning deep. She never planned to tell her son, Michael Jordan, but when she does, a quiet fury ignites. What follows is a move so bold, so breathtaking. It turns humiliation into triumph and sparks a movement that echoes worldwide. This is a story of a mother's dignity reclaimed and a son's love. The delicate chime of a crystal bell announced the arrival of 81-year-old Delorec Jordan as she stepped through the imposing, gilt-edged doors of Maison de Luxe on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Under the soft glow of ornate chandeliers, the boutique's polished marble floors shone like liquid silver, each step echoing with a dignified rhythm. The air was redolent with the heady fragrance of rare, expensive perfumes, mingled effortlessly with the subtle, almost secret whispers of well-heeled clientele. Every surface, every polished display, spoke of luxury and exclusivity, a world carefully curated to cater to tastes refined by wealth and tradition. Yet there she was, a gentle yet determined figure seemingly out of place amid this world of opulence. Delorec wore nothing that hinted at couture. Instead, she was clad in a pair of faded blue jeans and an old, time-worn jacket that bore the stains and creases of many journeys. Her weathered face, lined with decades of experience and quiet battles, was set in a look of somber resolve as she walked purposefully toward the counter. Today, she had come with an earnest desire to purchase the perfect gift for her beloved granddaughter, a token of love in a world that so often undervalued the wisdom and grace of its elders. In the midst of hushed conversations and the refined rustle of silk and designer fabrics, all eyes turned briefly toward her, a striking contrast to the usual parade of impeccably dressed patrons. It wasn't long before her presence drew a reaction. From behind an elegantly designed marble desk, the boutique's manager, Sophie Leclerc, emerged, with a scrutinizing, disdain-filled glance that traveled from the tips of Delorec's worn sneakers to the humble cut of her jacket. Sophie's attitude was immediately clear. Her voice, cool and cutting, sliced through the ambient murmurs. "Madam, this is not a place for people like you. Please, leave at once." The words rang out with an arrogance that did not belong amid the refined decor. As if on cue, a nearby security guard stepped forward, his expression a mirror of indifference as he moved to escort Delorec out. Meanwhile, a ripple of cruel laughter passed between the stylishly dressed sales associates. Their derisive whispers, barely hidden behind pursed lips and knowing glances, intertwined with the gentle clatter of designer heels on marble. To them, Delorec was nothing more than a poor tourist, an inconvenient disturbance in their pristine world of exclusivity. For a moment, the world seemed to narrow to that singular instant of humiliation. Delorec's eyes, dark and soulful, shimmered with both hurt and the resilience that had carried her through many hardships. The cold words and mocking laughter cut deeper than any physical blow could have. With each dismissive sneer thrown her way, her dignity shuddered, yet she stood tall, refusing to let her inner strength be diminished by the shallow cruelty of the privileged. Unable to bear the sting of rejection and the injustice of being treated as though she were beneath the magnificence of the store, Delorec's trembling fingers reached for her mobile phone. In a quiet corner, away from the jeering eyes and the echoing sounds of luxury, she placed the call. Her voice, choked with tears and laced with both sorrow and a fierce determination, whispered into the receiver, "Michael, it's me. They insulted me." In that haunting moment, as the gravity of her humiliation intertwined with the flicker of hope for retribution, the tension in her heart surged. Every syllable was heavy with the promise of justice, a justice that her son, Michael, would soon ensure was served. Back in Chicago, Michael Jordan received his mother's tearful call with a surge of fierce determination. In the quiet of his upscale apartment, where framed photos of his towering basketball legacy adorned the walls, Michael's eyes narrowed as he listened to his mother's trembling voice recount the humiliating ordeal at Maison de Luxe. "Mom, I got this. He promised with an unyielding resolve that reverberated throughout his heart. Every word carried the weight of not just his name, but a lifetime of pride, honor, and the fierce protection of his family's dignity. Without a moment's hesitation, Michael immediately initiated the plan of action. He contacted his trusted team, an elite cadre of sharp-sighted legal experts, experienced public relations strategists, and an unrelenting investigative unit. Phone calls flew from one end of his home office to the other, ensuring that every detail, from the identity of the offending manager Sophie Leclerc to the precise circumstances of his mother's dismissal, was documented. Michael's focus was absolute. Even as he paced around his modern living room, memories of his own battles against prejudice and injustice mingled with visions of his mother's graceful yet defiant spirit. There was no room for second thoughts. Today, his mother's honor would be vindicated. By mid-afternoon, Michael had booked the earliest flight to Paris, a red-eye that would swiftly transport him across the Atlantic. The chill of the night air as he stepped out of his Chicago apartment was soon replaced by the determined warmth of his purpose. In the busy terminal of O'Hare International Airport, surrounded by the hum of international departures and arrivals, Michael maintained an unruffled calm. Every step he took was measured and purposeful, his polished shoes clicking against the tiled floor, a sound that seemed to mimic the beat of his resolute heart. During the flight, while the world outside the small airplane window melted into the dark tapestry of the ocean below, Michael reviewed every detail in his mind. A montage of images, his mother's dignified face, the opulent yet exclusionary interior of Maison de Luxe, and the haughty dismissal by Sophie Leclerc, played on an endless loop. His thoughts raced. How could such a revered boutique, famed for celebrating fine craftsmanship and luxury, degrade a woman who embodied decades of strength and grace? He vowed that no injustice would go unanswered. In between the quiet hum of the aircraft and the clipped announcements of the cabin crew, Michael scribbled notes on a legal pad, formulating the strategy that would not only save his mother's honor but set an example of defiance against discrimination. Landing at Charles de Gaulle Airport, Michael was greeted by the crisp Parisian autumn air. The arrival hall was a whirlwind of languages, travel-weary passengers, and the unmistakable aroma of freshly brewed espresso emanating from nearby cafes. Though the environment was bustling, the determined look on his face was one that commanded attention and respect. With his team already coordinating every detail from a chic temporary office in the heart of Paris, Michael knew that timing was crucial. The tension steadily built as he navigated through the historic streets of Paris. Glimmering storefronts, elegant cafes, and the subtle hum of high society conversations contrasted sharply with the storm he was about to unleash. Every step towards Maison de Luxe was heavy with the anticipation of retribution. He remembered his mother's words, her quiet dignity in the face of snide remarks, as if every syllable had marked a vow that she was far more than what Sophie or any snobbish manager could ever assume. As Michael approached the iconic facade of Maison de Luxe nestled among the boutiques lining the Champs-Élysées, the tension reached its peak. The building radiated luxury. The grand, intricately carved doors, a polished stone exterior imbued with history, and gilded accents that spoke of wealth and exclusivity. In stark contrast to the opulence, Michael's resolve pulsed through his veins like wildfire. Here was the battleground where a single act of disrespect had tipped the scales and forced him into action. At that very moment, as onlookers passed by with barely a glance and the soft murmur of elite patrons drifted from within, the heavy door swung open. Michael Jordan, accompanied by his retinue of legal advisors and PR experts, stood at the threshold, his presence as commanding as it was unexpected. His eyes, luminous with determination, scanned the luxurious interior where he was about to confront a system that had spurned his mother's dignity. The stage was now set, a dramatic collision between the traditional world of high fashion and the unyielding call for justice. Inside the grand showroom of Maison de Luxe, the polished marble gleamed under the soft, diffused light of exquisite crystal chandeliers. The air was thick with anticipation and murmurs from the elite clientele, who had scarcely believed their eyes when they saw Michael Jordan, flanked by a team of legal advisors, public relations experts, and sharply dressed aides, stride purposefully toward the center of the store. Every set of eyes was fixed on him as he ascended the small, ornate stage-like platform near the entrance, the polished wood beneath his feet echoing each resolute step. With a deep, commanding voice that resonated through the hushed boutique, Michael began, "Ladies and gentlemen, patrons of Maison de Luxe, today, you are witnessing history in the making. My mother, Delorec Jordan, was not only subjected to indignity and contempt in this very establishment, but she was treated as though her worth could be measured solely by her appearance." His words cut through the ambient whispers like a knife through silk. The atmosphere, already charged with tension from earlier events, now hummed with an electricity that you could almost feel. He paused, letting the gravity of his statement settle over the glittering room. This store, which once prided itself on exclusivity, has shown that it values arrogance over decency. I find this intolerable. Therefore, by my authority, I am here to announce that you have offended my family too deeply. I am buying Maison de Luxe in its entirety. A ripple of shock passed over the onlookers. Some gasped audibly, while others exchanged incredulous glances. The murmurs shifted into a blend of astonishment and anticipation. Michael's declaration was both a personal retribution and a statement against elitism, poised to turn the very institution into a monument of change. Before the stunned silence could fully subside, the elegant yet condescending Sophie Leclerc, a vision in her impeccably tailored uniform, stepped forward from behind a sleek mahogany counter. Her eyes narrowed as she regarded Michael with an expression equal parts incredulity and disdain. With a slightly mocking tone, she retorted, "This is impossible, sir. You expect me to believe that you can simply declare such a monumental change in ownership with the flip of a switch. You have no idea what you're meddling with." Her voice, laced with derision, ricocheted off the ornate walls, challenging Michael's authority and the very basis of his bold claim. Michael's gaze remained unyielding as he took a few measured steps closer, his posture radiating the unbreakable resolve of a man who would stop at nothing to restore his mother's dignity. "Oh, Miss Leclerc," he replied coolly, his tone both calm and scrutinizing. "It is not a matter of expectation but indisputable fact. You've made a grievous error in judgment by mistreating my mother, and now it is my turn to set things right." His words drew a mixture of murmurs of support from the gathered crowd and stifled gasps of disbelief from those loyal to the old order. The tension in the boutique became almost tangible as cameras began to flash and reporters leaned in, their eyes wide with anticipation for what would come next. Michael subtly gestured to the team at his side, prompting one of his legal advisors to step forward. Behind him, a large digital screen flickered to life, its illuminated display hinting at a treasure trove of documents and data that nobody present had expected to see. It was clear that Michael's declaration was backed by something monumental, evidence so compelling that it would soon obliterate any objections. Just as the room braced for the revelation, Sophie's face contorted into a mixture of anger and panic. "This is preposterous," she exclaimed, her voice trembling as she attempted to regain control of the situation. Her protest, however, only intensified the hushed excitement in the room. Michael's eyes flashed with quiet determination, and he continued, "I have, through swift negotiations and relentless determination, secured a contract worth 150 million euros with the parent company of this boutique. In addition, I possess a formal letter of agreement directly from your corporate headquarters that confirms the sale. Today, not only do I buy this establishment, but I also reclaim its reputation and transform it into a beacon of inclusion and dignity." At that climactic moment, the camera pans across the room as whispers of disbelief morph into palpable tension. Michael paused, his declaration hanging in the air like a challenge, leaving everyone on the brink of anticipation for the proof that was about to shatter the final remnants of opposition. The stage was set for the ultimate unveiling of indisputable evidence, and the greater revolution that would soon follow. The digital screen behind Michael now boldly displayed a scanned image of the signed contract. With a swift, deliberate gesture, he pressed a button on a remote, enlarging the document for every eye in Maison de Luxe to see. The high-resolution image revealed a meticulously executed agreement, a contract for 150 million euros, legally binding and signed by the parent company of the boutique. Every detail, from the authorized signatures to the official notarization stamp, testified to the veracity of Michael's claim. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael announced, his voice resonating with resolve, "this contract is the final proof. I have secured the purchase of this boutique. With this transaction, I now have every right to transform Maison de Luxe into a place where dignity reigns over disdain." A murmur ran through the gallery as the evidence illuminated on the screen silenced any remaining doubts. Sophie Leclerc's eyes widened, and a look of panic replaced her previous arrogance. In a moment of icy determination, Michael continued, "As part of this acquisition, I am immediately implementing a complete overhaul of the management here." He stepped down from the makeshift platform and approached the sleek mahogany counter where Sophie had reappeared, her earlier defiance now wavering under the weight of incontrovertible evidence. "Sophie, effective immediately, you are relieved of your duties," Michael stated firmly, his tone both professional and uncompromising. "Your actions, which contributed to the humiliation of my mother, have no place in an establishment that is about to be reborn." The boutique fell into a stunned silence. The staff, once complicit through their covert smirks and dismissive glances, now exchanged worried looks. A few of the sales associates quietly gathered their belongings, their eyes downcast as they prepared to follow Michael's orders. One of his senior advisors stepped forward and, with barely a word, escorted Sophie away from the scene. The sound of her muffled protests was swiftly drowned out by the resolute clicking of heels on polished marble, each step echoing the end of an era. Just then, the grand entrance doors swung wide open, drawing the attention of every onlooker. There, framed in the doorway with a quiet yet unbreakable poise, stood Delorec Jordan. Her eyes, still carrying the memory of earlier humiliation, now shone with a light that spoke of triumphant resilience. Her attire, though modest, seemed imbued with a regal air as she stepped forward. The previously derisive whispers of the elite crowd turned into hushed awe as she advanced. Michael's face softened at the sight of his mother. Gently, he beckoned her over with a gesture that conveyed both pride and affection. "Mom," he said, "this is your store now." With that single phrase, the roles were reversed. The woman who had been dismissed and degraded only moments before now commanded the space as its rightful owner. The transformation was complete. The once exclusive boutique, a symbol of cold privilege, was being reclaimed as a bastion of inclusivity. In a meticulously orchestrated ceremony that felt both personal and historic, Michael formally handed over a symbolic key to Delorec. The elegant key, encrusted with subtle motifs reminiscent of Parisian artistry, shimmered in the ambient light as she accepted it. Cameras flashed, capturing the poignant moment as onlookers witnessed the rebirth of a storied establishment under new leadership. But Michael was not done. Standing behind his mother, he addressed the gathered crowd and the now transformed atmosphere of the boutique. "Today marks a turning point. Not only is justice being restored, but we are also launching a campaign to ensure that dignity and respect are never compromised again." With a dramatic pause that allowed every word to resonate, he continued, "I proudly announce the launch of the Jordan Dignity Fund, a $50 million initiative dedicated to supporting senior citizens who are regularly marginalized and discriminated against simply because of their appearance or age." The announcement sent shockwaves through Maison de Luxe and beyond. The room erupted with a swell of applause and cheers as the boutique, once a monument to exclusion, now gleamed with the promise of accessible luxury and equal opportunity. The transformation was not merely symbolic. It was a tangible pledge to dismantle the deep-rooted prejudices that had long kept many at the margins. In that charged moment, the tender interplay of pride, retribution, and hope filled the air. Michael's powerful actions, culminating in conclusive evidence, decisive management changes, and an inspiring call to action, had rewritten the narrative of the day. Delorec's gentle smile, tinged with the memory of past trials yet radiant with newfound authority, served as a living testament to the idea that dignity cannot be denied. The stage was now set for the next chapter. a movement in which justice and compassion were not confined by money or social status, but blossomed in the hearts of those courageous enough to stand against injustice. As Maison de Luxe began its metamorphosis, every corner of the store hinted at a future where exclusivity fused with community and luxury merged with legacy. Under Delorec Jordan's steadfast leadership, Maison de Luxe underwent a dramatic metamorphosis in a matter of hours. Gone were the days when the boutique's opulent decor served only an exclusive elite. Now, every corner of the store radiated warmth and inclusivity. Lavish displays of designer goods remained, but they had been subtly reimagined, now accompanied by tasteful banners proclaiming integrity, inclusion, and dignity. The gleam of the marble floors took on a softer quality, reflecting a new kind of light, one that shone with hope rather than ostentation. Elegant digital screens, previously reserved for high society advertisements, now showcased inspirational messages and live feeds celebrating the launch of the Jordan Dignity Fund. Delorec herself, still clad in simple yet dignified attire that balanced her timeless grace with a newfound authority, moved gracefully through the transformed boutique. With gentle, measured steps, she greeted each customer as if they were family. Her voice, soft yet resolute, filled the spacious showroom. Welcome. Today marks a new era, where everyone is embraced with the dignity they deserve, she announced with a warmth that seemed to melt away past prejudices. The once haughty atmosphere was now layered with genuine smiles and sincere conversations. A diverse array of employees, people of different ages, ethnicities, and styles, worked together behind redesigned counters that bore inspiring quotes. In the background, a tasteful arrangement of flowers and art installations reminded everyone that beauty lies in unity. At one corner of the boutique, a striking modern display detailed the specifics of the Jordan Dignity Fund. A bold headline proclaimed, $50 million for dignity, followed by a series of heartfelt testimonials and photographic montages of seniors who had suffered under discrimination. This campaign, masterminded by Michael Jordan and fervently supported by Delorec, promised to channel a portion of every sale toward charitable initiatives for the elderly and marginalized. The campaign's viral hashtag Jordan for Dignity, was already lighting up social media feeds around the world, reinforcing the message that a single act of defiance could reverberate globally. Throughout the day, Delorec moved from station to station, advising a young sales associate struggling with hesitation in warmly greeting an elderly couple, complimenting a veteran employee for her genuine smile, and even pausing to console a first-time customer visibly moved by the store's renewed vision. In quiet moments behind the counter, she reminisced about the bitter pain of rejection. The memory of being dismissed and humiliated still stung, yet it was now transformed into a catalyst for change. In her own thoughts, Delorec mused, "Today this space is my canvas, a place where every soul, regardless of age or appearance, is treasured. What they once saw as insignificance now becomes our strength." Outside the boutique, the buzz of Paris was unmistakable. Fashion enthusiasts, local social critics, and ardent supporters gathered near the store's grand entrance, snapping photos and sharing live updates. Conversations in hushed French mixed with exclamations in English. "Have you heard about the Jordan takeover?" And "Delorec Jordan is turning the boutique into a symbol of hope." The enthusiastic clamor was a stark contrast to the earlier derision that had filled the store. Storefronts on the Champs-Élysées, always epitomes of refined elegance, now stood as silent witnesses to a seismic shift in societal values. The story of a son avenging his mother's dignity, one that spiraled into a movement for inclusiveness, spread quickly, echoing through upscale cafes and the fast-paced corridors of social media. By mid-afternoon, as the sun dipped low and cast long, golden shadows across the cobblestones, Delorec took a moment to stand by a newly installed window display. The display featured a simple vase of freshly cut wildflowers with a handwritten placard that read, "Dignity is priceless." Her eyes, soft with reflection yet alight with fierce pride, wandered over the smiling faces of her new team and the curious, hopeful glances of passers-by. In that reflective pause, she felt the weight of the past dissipate into the potential of a future redefined by compassion and justice. Every detail, From the careful curation of the store's new aesthetic to the profound symbolism behind the fund, was a declaration that no one's worth should ever be diminished by superficial appearances. As the transformed boutique continued to draw adulation and media attention, Delorec's steady presence radiated a quiet, unyielding confidence. It wasn't merely a change in management, it was a revolution of values. Paris, a city known for its beauty and art, now hummed with a renewed conviction that dignity should be the foundation of all human interaction. The store stood at the nexus of heritage and progress, a tangible representation of one woman's journey from despair to empowerment. As the crisp Parisian evenings settled over the city, Maison de Luxe had become much more than a former bastion of exclusion. It now pulsed with the vibrant heartbeat of change. The transformation initiated by Michael and embraced wholeheartedly by Delorec had rippled far beyond the four gilded walls of the boutique and into the very soul of Paris. Every elegant detail of the refreshed store, from the artfully reimagined displays to the warm greetings of a diverse new staff, stood as living proof that dignity could be crafted anew, one act of defiance at a time. Outside the boutique, throngs of fashionable Parisians, local media, and social media influencers gathered, their eyes alight with excitement over the stunning reversal of fortunes. Hashtags such as #JordanForDignity and #DelorecLeads were trending worldwide, transforming a single, brave moment into a global movement. The story of how Michael Jordan avenged his mother's humiliation and reclaimed a symbol of luxury for the common people had ignited conversations in cafes, on news programs, and across digital billboards lining the Champs-Élysées. Every whispered recounting of the dramatic takeover, every viral video snippet, and every glowing social post amplified the message. Dignity knows no bounds. In a sleek, glass-fronted press conference held on the steps of Maison de Luxe, Michael addressed an audience composed of celebrated activists, polished journalists, and influential civic leaders. His voice, firm and compassionate, resonated in the twilight air as he recapitulated the day's events. Today, we prove that luxury must not be a sanctuary for prejudice, nor should dignity be measured by appearance, he declared, his eyes briefly glancing toward his mother with profound tenderness. We are here to ensure that every person, regardless of age or circumstance, is treated with respect, and that injustice is met with unwavering action. His words were met with a roar of applause and standing ovations that seemed to echo the collective heartbeat of a city ready for transformation. Back inside Maison de Luxe, Sophie Leclerc's fate had taken a decisive and irrevocable turn. Once the imperious manager who had sneered at Delorec's entrance, Sophie now faced the crushing reality of her own obsolescence. With the store's ownership transferred, corporate board members swiftly moved to terminate her employment, cutting off her ties to an industry she had spent her life upholding. Rumors of her downfall spread with breathtaking speed, her once proud career now a cautionary tale of arrogance and intolerance. In hushed tones inside the corridors of luxury, industry insiders whispered about the Jordan Revolution and the inevitable reckoning faced by those who dared snub dignity. Delorec, having accepted the symbolic key in the middle of an emotionally charged ceremony, now stood behind the newly appointed reception desk. Her eyes sparkled with both the wisdom of her many years and the fierce satisfaction of a justice long denied. As she carefully arranged a collection of delicate gifts, a small, exquisitely wrapped present intended for her beloved granddaughter, her thoughts traveled back through the painful hours when an act of exclusion had wounded her deeply. Yet those wounds had been healed by the swift, unyielding force of a son's love and a community's call for justice. Every customer who entered now was embraced as family, and every sale was a quiet revolution of hope. That evening, as Paris shimmered under a canopy of streetlights and the sounds of celebration filled the air, Michael hosted a charity gala to formally launch the Jordan Dignity Fund, a colossal $50 million initiative dedicated to supporting the elderly victims of discrimination. In his keynote speech, Michael spoke of unity, transformation, and the courage to challenge the status quo. The gala, streamed live to millions around the world, showcased testimonies from transformed lives, artistic performances celebrating diversity, and impassioned speeches that underscored the belief that every individual deserved respect. As the night drew to a close, Delorec walked alone along the quiet, lamplit boulevard near her new boutique. The golden glow of Paris illuminated her gentle smile, a smile that carried the weight of a painful history, now turned into a beacon of hope for the future. In that solitary moment of reflection, she softly murmured, almost to herself, "Sometimes one act can change the world and remind us that dignity has no price." The words, simple yet profound, became an enduring mantra, a powerful reminder that even a single brave act can spark a revolution, uplift the downtrodden, and transform an entire society. I hope you enjoyed this story. Leave a comment, sharing your thoughts about it. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new and equally exciting stories. See you in the next video.